When the damaged soldier awakened his true nature, the galaxy's greatest warrior bowed in respect. The command center hung in orbit above the dying star. Its metallic walls reflected the red light that pulsed through the observation windows. Commander Thane stood at the tactical display, his four arms moving across holographic controls with practiced precision. He was a Krynn, one of the most feared warrior species in the galaxy. His exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, and his compound eyes could track 100 threats simultaneously. He had fought in 200 battles over his 80-year career, and he had never known defeat. Today was supposed to be a simple recruitment assessment. The Terran Republic had finally agreed to contribute soldiers to the Galactic Defense Corps, and Earth had sent what they claimed were their finest warriors. Thane did not expect much. Humans were fragile creatures with soft skin and weak bodies. They had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago, and most species viewed them as a curiosity at best, a liability at worst. The candidates stood in formation on the observation deck. There were 30 of them, all wearing their military dress uniforms covered in medals and ribbons. They stood straight and proud, trying to project strength. Thane walked past each one, his trained eye assessing combat potential. He saw discipline, yes, and courage, but nothing exceptional, nothing that would survive real combat against the Hive. The Hive was coming. Long-range sensors had detected their scout ships entering this sector of the galaxy. The Hive consumed everything. They were not conquerors who wanted territory or resources. They were harvesters who stripped entire worlds down to bedrock and moved on. 60 civilizations had fallen to them in the past millennium. The Galactic Defense Corps was humanity's only hope of survival, and they needed warriors who could face the impossible. One by one, Thane rejected the human candidates, too slow, too rigid in their thinking, too dependent on weapons and technology. The Hive adapted to everything. Soldiers needed something more, something primal and instinctive. These humans did not have it. The human liaison, General Martinez, was sweating heavily despite the cool temperature. Commander Thane, perhaps if you could tell us what specific qualities you are seeking, we could provide better candidates. I will know it when I see it, Thane replied, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into human language. Your species has potential, but these individuals have been trained to fight wars against each other. The Hive is different. It requires warriors who understand survival on a fundamental level. In the corner of the room, near the environmental controls, someone coughed. Thane's head swiveled toward the sound. A human sat on the floor, his back against the wall. He wore a maintenance uniform, not a military dress uniform. His face was scarred, and one of his eyes was covered with a medical patch. His left hand was mechanical, a prosthetic that looked outdated and poorly maintained. "Who is that?" Thane asked. General Martinez glanced over, and his expression soured. "That's nobody, Commander, just a technician. We had an issue with the life support system, and he was called in to repair it. He will leave shortly." "Bring him forward." "Commander, I assure you he is not a candidate. He's not even active military. He is just maintenance staff." "Bring him forward," Thane repeated, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The technician stood slowly, as if his body hurt. He was thin, too thin, and he moved with the careful deliberation of someone who had learned to manage chronic pain. He walked across the polished floor while every eye in the room watched him. The other candidates whispered among themselves. Some laughed quietly. The technician stopped 3 meters from Thane and gave a slight nod. Not a salute, not a bow, just a simple acknowledgement. "What is your name?" Thane asked. "Marcus Webb, sir." "You are military?" "Was. Medical discharge 18 months ago." "What happened?" Marcus hesitated. "Colony defense. The settlement on Kepler 442b was attacked by raiders. I was part of the garrison. We held them off long enough for the civilians to evacuate, but most of my unit did not make it. I took shrapnel from an explosive. Lost the eye, lost the hand, broke my spine in 3 places. Doctors said I was lucky to walk again." Thane studied him carefully. The human's remaining eye met his gaze without flinching. There was no pride in that gaze, no anger, no fear, just a quiet acceptance of reality. "Why are you here in this room right now?" The environmental system had a faulty valve. I replaced it. I was about to leave when you called me over. Do you wish to fight again? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. No, sir. I have fought enough. I just want to fix things and live quietly. The answer surprised Thane. Every other candidate had spoken of duty, honor, and the desire to serve. This human offered only honesty. General Martinez, Thane said, never taking his eyes off Marcus. What are this man's combat records? Martinez pulled up a data file on his tablet. His face showed confusion as he read. He served for 6 years before his injury, multiple commendations. He was part of a special operations unit. His psychological evaluation after the injury lists him as unsuitable for combat duty due to trauma response and physical limitations. What kind of trauma response? Martinez read further. Severe anxiety, difficulty sleeping, avoidance of combat situations. The standard profile for what humans call post-traumatic stress disorder. Thane clicked his mandibles together, a sound of consideration. I choose this one. The room exploded with protest. The candidates shouted. General Martinez stepped forward, his face red. Commander, this is unacceptable. Marcus Webb is not even a candidate. He is damaged, both physically and mentally. We have offered you decorated veterans, elite soldiers, and you choose a broken technician? I choose based on what I see, Thane said firmly. Your decorated soldiers have been trained to follow orders and execute tactics. They are rigid. This one has survived something that broke him and rebuilt himself afterward. That is the quality I seek. Adaptability through suffering. The man has PTSD, Martinez argued. He cannot handle the stress of combat. Thane turned to Marcus. Can you handle combat? Marcus took a breath. Honestly, sir, I do not know. The last time I was in a firefight, I froze. My squad leader died because I could not move. That is why I work in maintenance now. I am not reliable. The honesty was stunning. Every other candidate would have lied, would have claimed readiness. This human admitted his weakness without shame. I still choose him, Thane declared. He will come with me to the training facility. We will see what he is truly capable of. General Martinez tried to argue further, but Thane simply walked away. The decision was made. Marcus Webb stood there, looking confused and frightened, his mechanical hand clenching and unclenching reflexively. One of the rejected candidates, a large man with multiple combat badges, stopped beside Marcus on his way out. You just made humanity look weak, he said coldly. When you fail, remember that you embarrassed all of us. Marcus said nothing. What could he say? He agreed with the man. He was weak, he was broken, and now he had been chosen for something he could not possibly do. After the other humans left, Thane approached Marcus again. Gather your belongings. We leave in 1 hour. You will live on the training station for the next 6 months. Commander, Marcus said quietly, I think you made a mistake. I'm not what you think I am. I'm just a technician who used to be a soldier. The part of me that could fight is gone. Perhaps, Thane replied. Or perhaps it is just sleeping. We will discover the truth together. The training facility was called the Crucible, and it orbited a gas giant in an uninhabited system. The station housed warriors from 40 different species, all training to face the hive. Marcus arrived expecting to find other humans, but he was the only one. Thane had not selected any of the other candidates. His quarters were small but functional. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom. Through the window he could see the swirling storms of the gas giant below, beautiful and terrifying. He sat on the edge of the bed and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. The next morning, Thane came to his quarters at dawn, though there was no real dawn in space. Come, training begins. Marcus followed him through corridors filled with alien warriors. A draken, a species that looked like bipedal dragons covered in crimson scales, watched him pass with predatory interest. A group of Silith, beings made of living crystal that chimed. Musically as they moved, stopped their conversation to stare. An enormous Vorthan, all tentacles and bioluminescent patterns, blocked half the corridor as it flowed past. They all looked at Marcus with the same expression, curiosity mixed with contempt. The weak human, the broken soldier. What was he doing here? The training hall was massive, a space the size of several football fields. Different areas were set up for different types of combat training. Thane led Marcus to an empty section. "We begin with basics," Thane said. "Show me how you fight." "I do not have a weapon." "Your body is your weapon. Show me." Marcus took a fighting stance, the one he had learned in basic training years ago. His balance was off because of his spine injury, and his prosthetic hand did not grip properly. He threw a punch at the air, and pain shot through his back. He winced. Thane watched without comment. Again. Marcus tried again and again. Each time the pain grew worse. Each time his movements were slower and more awkward. After 20 minutes he was sweating and shaking. "Enough," Thane said. "You fight like someone who is afraid of his own body." "My body is damaged," Marcus replied, breathing hard. "It does not work the way it used to." "Every body is damaged in some way. The question is whether you let the damage define you." Thane walked in a circle around Marcus. "You were a special operations soldier. You must have been capable once. What changed?" "I told you. I got hurt, and when I went back into combat, I froze. I could not pull the trigger. I just stood there while my squad leader got shot. After that, the doctor said I was unfit for duty." "Did you freeze because you were afraid of dying?" Marcus thought carefully. "No, I froze because I was afraid of making the wrong choice. In that moment, I saw too many possibilities. If I shot left, enemies on the right would flank us. If I shot right, enemies on the left would advance. If I threw a grenade, it might hit my own people. I saw all the ways everything could go wrong, and I could not choose. So I did nothing." Thane made a clicking sound. "Interesting. Most warriors freeze because they see too little. You froze because you saw too much." Over the next weeks, training continued. Thane did not teach Marcus to fight. Instead, he taught him to move. They practiced basic motion, walking, running, rolling, standing. Marcus thought it was pointless, but he did not argue. He had nowhere else to go. The other warriors at the Crucible ignored him mostly, but occasionally someone would make their contempt known. A Draken named Korth enjoyed pushing Marcus around. In the dining hall, Korth would deliberately bump into Marcus, making him drop his food. In the training areas, Korth would make loud comments about human weakness. "I heard Earth sent only one warrior," Korth said one day, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "I suppose when you only have one warrior worth sending, that is what happens. Although looking at this one, perhaps they have 0 warriors worth sending." The other species laughed. Marcus kept his head down and continued eating. He had learned long ago that responding to bullies only made things worse. But there was one being who did not mock him. A young Silith named Resonance, who worked in the station's archive library, had noticed Marcus coming to read during his free time. "What do you study?" Resonance asked one day. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Combat reports from Hive encounters," Marcus replied. "I'm trying to understand how they fight." "Why?" "Commander Thane has not even begun weapons training with you yet." "Because I need to know what I am facing. The Hive is different from any enemy I have fought before. Human tactics will not work against them." Resonance tilted her crystalline head. "You are more thoughtful than you appear." "I am more broken than I appear, too," Marcus said with a sad smile. Perhaps those two things are connected. Marcus began to notice something strange happening to him. During training sessions, especially when he was exhausted or in pain, time would occasionally stutter. It was not a full stop, just a brief moment where everything slowed down and he could see movement patterns more clearly. He thought he was imagining it, a symptom of his damaged brain trying to cope with stress. But one day, it saved his life. He was walking through a maintenance corridor when a heavy support beam broke loose from the ceiling. In a normal moment, it would have crushed him. But time stuttered, and Marcus saw the beam falling in slow motion. He saw exactly where it would land. He stepped aside, and the beam crashed down exactly where he had been standing a second before. He stood there, shaking, staring at the beam. That should have killed him. He should not have been able to move in time, but somehow he had. He did not tell anyone about it. They already thought he was broken. If he started talking about time anomalies, they would think he was completely insane. 3 months into training, Thane finally introduced weapons. He brought Marcus to an armory filled with equipment from a dozen species. "Choose," Thane said. Marcus looked at the weapons: plasma rifles, energy blades, kinetic launchers, neural disruptors. All of them required two functional hands. His prosthetic was not precise enough for most of them. "I cannot use these effectively," Marcus admitted. "Then choose something you can use." Marcus found a simple kinetic pistol designed for a species with 3 fingers. It was old-fashioned and low-tech, but it fit his prosthetic hand well enough. He also took a combat knife. Thane nodded. "Good. You choose based on your reality, not your pride. Now we train." The combat training was brutal. Thane put Marcus through scenarios against holographic enemies. Wave after wave of hive warriors attacked, their insectoid bodies moving with horrifying speed and coordination. Marcus failed over and over. He was too slow, too hesitant, too damaged. After each failure, Thane would say the same thing. Again, Marcus began to hate that word. Again, again, again. No matter how hard he tried, he could not succeed. The scenarios were designed for experienced warriors, and he was just a broken technician pretending to be a soldier. One night, Marcus sat in his quarters, staring at his prosthetic hand. He could request to leave. Thane would probably let him go. He could return to Earth, go back to fixing environmental systems, live his quiet life. No one would blame him. But something stopped him. It was not pride. It was not duty. It was something else. A quiet voice in his mind that whispered, "Not yet. You have not discovered what you are looking for yet." He did not even know what that meant. The next day, Commander Thane gathered all the warriors in the main assembly hall. His expression was grim. "Long-range sensors have detected a hive vanguard fleet entering this sector. They will reach the outer colonies in approximately 40 days. The Galactic Defense Corps is mobilizing all available forces. Your training is complete. Tomorrow, you go to war." The hall erupted in war cries from dozens of species. Warriors struck their weapons together, roared their battle hymns, prepared for glory. Marcus felt only cold fear in his stomach. After the assembly, Thane approached him. "You have not completed your training." "I know," Marcus said quietly, "but you will come with us anyway. The Crucible is being evacuated. Everyone fights. I will fail. You know I will. Perhaps you will discover what I saw in you from the beginning." "What do you see in me?" Marcus asked desperately. "I have been here for 3 months, and I am still the same broken soldier I was when I arrived." Thane's compound eyes studied him. "I see someone who survived impossible trauma and kept existing. I see someone who admits his weakness instead of hiding it. I see someone who thinks too much instead of too little. These things seem like flaws, but against the hive, they might be exactly what we need. I do not understand. You will. When the moment comes, you will understand." The fleet assembled in orbit, hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all preparing to face the hive vanguard. Marcus stood on the bridge of Thane's flagship, a massive Krynn dreadnought called the Relentless. He wore combat armor designed for humans, though it had to be modified for his prosthetic. He carried his pistol and knife, and he felt completely unprepared. The hive ships appeared on the sensors. They looked organic, like massive insects made of metal and flesh. They moved in perfect coordination, a swarm acting as a single organism. There were 50 of them, each one larger than any ship in the defense fleet. "All ships prepare for engagement," Thane commanded. His voice was steady, confident. "Remember your training. The hive adapts quickly. Do not use the same tactic twice. Keep them confused." The battle began. It was chaos. The hive ships released smaller attack craft that swarmed the defense fleet like angry wasps. Energy weapons lit up space. Ships exploded. Debris filled the battlefield. Marcus watched from the bridge, feeling useless and terrified. "Boarding teams detected on Deck 7, a Krynn officer reported. "The hive has breached the hull." Thane turned to Marcus. "You will come with me. We defend the ship." "Commander, I will just slow you down. Then move faster." Thane led a squad of Krynn warriors toward Deck 7. Marcus followed, his heart pounding. They moved through corridors lit by emergency lighting. Alarm sirens screamed. Then they heard it. The sound of the hive. A clicking, chittering noise that made Marcus's skin crawl. They rounded a corner and saw them. Hive warriors. They looked like a nightmare combination of insect and machine, 6 legs, 4 arms, each one ending in a blade or gun. Their faces were eyeless, sensing through vibration and electromagnetic fields. There were 12 of them. The Krynn squad opened fire. Energy bolts struck the Hive warriors, but they adapted instantly. Their carapaces shifted, becoming reflective. The energy weapons became less effective. The Krynn switched to kinetic weapons. The Hive adapted again, hardening their armor. Marcus raised his pistol, but his hand was shaking too badly to aim. He saw too many possible shots, too many ways things could go wrong. If he shot and missed, he would waste ammunition. If he hit the wrong part, he would just make the Hive warrior angry. He froze, exactly like he had frozen 18 months ago. A Krynn warrior beside him screamed and fell, a hive blade through his chest. Thane fought with brutal efficiency, his 4 arms moving in perfect coordination, but there were too many Hive warriors, and they were adapting to every attack. Marcus stood there, paralyzed, watching his comrades die. The same nightmare repeating. He was useless, broken, weak. One of the Hive warriors noticed him. It turned and scuttled toward him on 6 clicking legs. Marcus could not move. He could not think. He could only watch as death approached. The Hive warrior raised a blade arm to strike. Time stopped. Not stuttered, stopped. Everything froze. The Hive warrior hung in mid-motion. Energy bolts hung in the air like suspended fireflies. Thane was frozen mid-swing. The dying Krynn warrior's blood droplets floated motionless. Marcus could move. Only Marcus could move. His mind exploded with clarity. He could see everything, not just what was happening, but what could happen. Every possible future branched out before him like an infinite tree, and he could trace each branch to its end. He saw futures where everyone died. Futures where only he survived. Futures where Thane lived but the ship was lost. Futures where the ship survived but the fleet was destroyed. And in that massive web of possibility, he saw one single thread. One path where enough people lived, where the battle could be won. It was almost impossible. The chances were infinitesimal, but it existed. His body moved without conscious thought. He raised his pistol and fired. The bullet hung in the air, frozen like everything else. He moved to the next position and fired again and again. He fired 7 shots, each one placed with absolute precision. Then he pushed Thane, using all his strength to move the commander's frozen body just 3 centimeters to the left. He grabbed the dying Krynn warrior's dropped weapon, an energy lance, and positioned it at an exact angle. He took the knife from his belt and threw it. The blade hung in the air mid-flight. Then he positioned himself, took a deep breath, and let go. Time resumed. Everything happened simultaneously. Marcus's 7 bullets struck 7 Hive warriors at the exact weak points where their adaptive armor had microscopic gaps. The rounds punched through and hit neural clusters. 7 warriors dropped instantly. The Hive warrior that had been about to kill Marcus completed its swing, but Marcus was no longer there. He had moved during the frozen time. The blade struck empty air. Thane, pushed slightly to the left, dodged a Hive projectile that would have killed him. His return strike, now off by 3 centimeters from where it should have been, hit a critical joint on a Hive warrior's leg. The warrior collapsed. The energy lance Marcus had positioned fell at the exact angle needed to strike another Hive warrior as it turned. The knife Marcus had thrown completed its flight and buried itself in the eye cluster of another warrior. In 3 seconds, 11 of the 12 Hive warriors were dead. The last one tried to flee, but Thane's squad cut it down. Then Marcus collapsed. His nose bled. His vision went dark. The effort of using this ability had drained him completely. He fell forward and hit the deck unconscious. Marcus woke in the medical bay. His head felt like it had been split open. Every nerve in his body ached. Thane sat beside his bed, all 4 arms folded. "How long?" Marcus asked, his voice rough. "1 day. The battle is over. We won." "The Hive?" "Destroyed or retreated. Your actions on Deck 7 turned the battle. When you eliminated those boarding teams so efficiently, other warriors saw and adapted your tactics. We began targeting the microscopic gaps in their armor. The Hive could not adapt fast enough." Marcus closed his eyes. "I do not understand what I did." "I do," Thane said quietly. "Do you remember what I saw in you? Someone who thinks too much, who sees too many possibilities. You were not broken, Marcus. Your mind was evolving, trying to process combat in a way no human had done before. Time stopped. I suspected something like that. My species has legends of warriors who could touch what we call the stream, the flow of causality itself. We thought it was myth, but I have studied human evolution. Your species came from a world of constant threat. Predators, disease, natural disasters, war. You developed not strength but adaptability, and in extreme cases, that adaptability manifests as something extraordinary. Why did it not work before, when my squad leader died? Thane considered this. Perhaps because you were not ready, or perhaps because you needed to accept what you are first. All that training, all those failures, all that pain, it was preparing you, not your body, your mind. A medical officer entered, a 6-armed Hexian with gentle movements. She checked Marcus's vital signs and seemed satisfied. His neural patterns are stabilizing. Whatever he did caused massive stress to his brain, but there is no permanent damage. He will need rest. After she left, Thane stood. The other species have been informed about what you did. Word is spreading throughout the fleet. What kind of word? That humanity has a warrior who can see probability itself. That Earth's supposed weakness is actually a hidden strength. Some are afraid, some are excited. The Galactic Council wishes to speak with you. I am just one person. This ability, I cannot even control it. I do not know how to make it happen. Then we will learn together. But Marcus, you must understand what this means. You are no longer just a broken technician. You are proof that humanity belongs among the stars. Over the next weeks, Marcus tried to master his ability. With Thane's guidance, he learned to enter the state more reliably, though it still required intense need and focus. He discovered that the ability worked best when he was protecting others, not himself. When the stakes were purely personal, the power would not come. It is a gift meant for service, not selfishness, Thane observed. Your species evolved in tribes, in communities. Your greatest strength emerges when you fight for something beyond yourself. News of Marcus's ability spread across the galaxy. Scientists wanted to study him. Military strategists wanted to weaponize him. Politicians wanted to use him as a symbol. But Commander Thane protected him from all of it, insisting that Marcus needed time to understand his gift before it could be exploited. Not everyone was pleased by this development. The Draken Empire, led by Supreme Warlord Kragg, viewed humanity's emergence as a threat to their dominance. The Drakens had ruled the military hierarchy of the galaxy for 300 years, their natural strength and ferocity making them the premier warriors. The idea that soft-skinned humans could match or exceed them was intolerable. Korth, the Draken who had bullied Marcus at the Crucible, returned from a mission to find the human suddenly celebrated. His pride could not accept it. One lucky moment in battle does not make you a warrior, Korth said loudly in the dining hall one evening. He stood near Marcus's table, his crimson scales gleaming under the lights. I have fought in 100 battles. I have killed thousands of enemies. What have you done, human? You froze once, got lucky once, and now everyone treats you like a hero. Marcus looked up from his meal. His remaining eye met Korth's reptilian gaze steadily. You are right. I am not a hero. I am just someone trying to survive. Then you should return to your maintenance duties and leave war to real warriors. Perhaps I will when this is over. Korth leaned down, his fanged mouth close to Marcus's face. You make my species look weak by comparison. When you fail again, and you will fail, I will be there to remind everyone that humans are nothing special. Marcus said nothing. He had learned that Korth wanted a reaction, wanted an excuse to fight. Giving him neither was the wisest choice. Resonance, the Silith, watched from across the hall. She chimed softly, a sound of concern. Later, she approached Marcus in the library. Korth is dangerous, she said. He feels his status is threatened. I know, but I cannot fight him. Even with my ability, I am not a warrior like he is, and my ability does not work for personal combat anyway. It only comes when others are in danger. Then be careful. Pride makes people do terrible things. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Hive returned. This time, they brought their main fleet. Sensors detected over 500 ships approaching the core worlds. Every available warrior was mobilized. The Galactic Defense Corps assembled the largest military force in recorded history. Commander Thane called Marcus to the bridge. The battle will be at Sigma Station, a defensive platform protecting 3 inhabited worlds. If it falls, 15 billion beings will die. You will be on the front lines. I understand. Marcus, I must ask, can you control your ability now? Can you call it when needed? Marcus hesitated. Sometimes. When the need is great enough and I am focused on protecting others. But it drains me terribly. I can only use it for brief moments before I collapse. Brief moments may be all we need. The fleet arrived at Sigma Station 48 hours before the Hive. The station was massive, a ring-shaped structure 50 kilometers in diameter. It housed 100,000 military personnel and enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But against 500 Hive ships, even that might not be enough. Marcus stood in the station's command center, alongside Thane and the other commanders. Supreme Warlord Kragg of the Drakens was there, his massive form dominating the room. He glanced at Marcus with obvious disdain. "So this is the human everyone speaks of," Kragg rumbled. His voice sounded like avalanches. "He looks even weaker in person." "Strength is not always visible," Thane replied calmly. "We shall see. I have brought 10,000 Draken warriors. We will hold the station while the rest of you provide support." The plan was simple. The station would serve as an anchor point. The fleet would engage the Hive ships in open space, while specialized teams defended against boarding actions. It was a sound strategy, but everyone knew the casualties would be catastrophic. As they prepared, Marcus noticed something odd. Korth was assigned to the same defensive sector as him. The Draken watched him with predatory interest. "How convenient," Korth said quietly. "We will fight side by side, human. Try not to freeze when the killing begins." The Hive arrived like a plague. Their ships blotted out the stars, so many that sensors could barely count them. They did not negotiate or communicate. They simply attacked. The battle was hell. Energy weapons turned space into a light show of death. Ships exploded by the dozens. The Hive's adaptive technology meant that every tactic only worked once before they evolved a counter. The defense fleet had to constantly innovate, constantly change approaches. On Sigma Station, the waiting was worse than fighting. Marcus stood with his squad in Sector 7, a critical junction near the station's main reactor. If the Hive breached here, they could destroy the entire station from within. Thane had assigned him a mixed squad, 3 Krynn warriors, 2 Silith, 1 Vorthan, and Korth. The Draken made no effort to hide his resentment. "Try not to slow us down, human," Korth said as they took positions. "When the Hive comes, real warriors will handle it." The Hive came. Alerts screamed as enemy forces cut through the hull in multiple locations. Marcus's squad faced the assault in their corridor. Hive warriors poured through the breach, more than they had faced before. 20, 30, 40 of them, all clicking and chittering, their bladed limbs scraping against metal. The squad opened fire. Energy weapons, kinetic rounds, chemical explosives, everything. The Hive adapted, but not fast enough. The defenders were holding. Then Marcus saw it. In the chaos of battle, he saw the pattern the Hive was using. They were not just attacking, they were testing defenses, probing for weaknesses, and they had found one. 3 Hive warriors were moving differently, carrying specialized equipment toward the reactor access panel. If they reached it, they could overload the reactor. The explosion would destroy not just the station, but half the fleet nearby. "The reactor team," Marcus shouted. 3 on the left, moving toward the access panel. Korth glanced over. "I see nothing special about those 3. They are all the same. Focus on the enemies in front of us." "They are carrying charges. If they reach the panel, the human panics," Korth announced to the squad. "Ignore him. Hold formation." Marcus tried to move toward the 3 Hive warriors himself, but a wave of enemies blocked his path. He could not reach them in time. He needed the squad to focus fire, but Korth had command, and Korth refused to listen. The 3 Hive warriors were 10 meters from the panel, then 5 meters. Marcus felt the familiar pressure building in his mind, the need to protect, the desperate urgency. Time began to slow, but it did not stop completely. He was too drained from previous uses, too stressed. He could only slow time down to half speed, not freeze it entirely. It would have to be enough. Marcus moved through the slowed world. He raised his pistol and fired at the first hive warrior carrying charges. The shot was perfect, striking the charge pack. It exploded, killing that warrior and damaging the one next to it. The second damaged warrior stumbled but kept moving. Marcus fired again, but his prosthetic hand jerked and the shot missed. He cursed and ran forward, his damaged body protesting every step. The third hive warrior reached the panel and began attaching its charge. Marcus threw his knife. It tumbled through the slowed air and struck the warrior's arm joint, not a killing blow, but enough to disrupt its work. Time returned to normal speed. Marcus collapsed from the effort, his vision swimming. But he had bought seconds, precious seconds. Thane's voice came over the communicator. All squads, priority targets are enemies carrying explosives. Focus fire immediately. The other squads had seen Marcus's warning now. They turned their attention to the bomb carriers. The third hive warrior at the panel died in a hail of gunfire before it could activate its charge. The battle raged for another hour, but the crisis point had passed. The hive forces were gradually pushed back and eliminated. When it was over, Marcus lay on the floor, barely conscious. Korth stood over him. "You disobeyed my command. You broke formation." "I saved the station," Marcus managed to say. "You got lucky, again." But the other squad members saw the truth. They had reviewed the tactical recordings. Marcus had been right. The hive had been seconds away from destroying everything, and only his warning had stopped it. When Thane arrived to assess the situation, Korth filed a formal complaint. The human endangered the squad by acting independently. He should be removed from combat duty. Thane reviewed the recordings himself. Then he turned to Korth. "Marcus identified a threat that you missed. His action saved 100,000 lives. If you had listened to his warning immediately, the situation would have been resolved with less risk. He is not a commander. I am. My authority was undermined. Your authority is based on competence. In this instance, his judgment was superior to yours." Korth's scales flushed darker with rage, but he could not argue with recordings that clearly showed Marcus had been correct. After Korth left, Thane helped Marcus to his feet. "You are pushing yourself too hard. That partial time dilation, it is damaging you." "I had no choice. If I had done nothing." "I know, but there will be more battles. The Hive main fleet has not even fully engaged yet. You must preserve your strength for when it matters most." "When will that be?" "I do not know. But I suspect we will know when the moment comes." The battle for Sigma Station continued for 3 more days. The Hive kept coming in waves, never stopping, never tiring. The defense forces rotated shifts, but exhaustion was setting in. Warriors made mistakes. Response times slowed. The Hive was winning through attrition. On the 4th day, sensors detected something new. A massive ship emerging from the Hive fleet. It was different from the others, larger and more complex. It pulsed with strange energy. "What is that?" one of the analysts asked. Thane studied the readings. "I have seen records of this. The Hive Nexus. It is their command ship, their queen. Every Hive warrior is connected to it telepathically. If we destroy it, the entire fleet becomes disorganized." "Then we focus all firepower on that ship," Cragg declared. "It will not be that simple," Thane warned. "The Nexus has never been destroyed in recorded history. It has defenses we cannot imagine." "Then we try harder." The fleet redirected their assault. Every ship that could fire on the Nexus did so. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic weapons, exotic particle cannons. Everything humanity and the allied species had created. The firepower was enough to vaporize a planet. The Nexus absorbed it all. Its organic hull adapted to every attack, becoming immune within seconds. Weapons that should have torn it apart barely scratched the surface. "It is impossible," one commander said in despair. Marcus watched from the command center. He saw the Nexus and felt something strange, a recognition, as if his ability was responding to the presence of this thing. He closed his eyes and let his mind reach out. In that moment, he saw the Nexus clearly. It was not just a ship. It was a living network, a biological computer managing trillions of calculations simultaneously. Every hive warrior was a node in the network, every ship was a subsystem, and at the center, the nexus itself, the processing core. But even the most advanced computer has vulnerabilities. Marcus saw them, not physical weak points, but informational ones. The nexus processed too much data. It had to prioritize threats, filter information, make predictions. If someone could feed it information it could not process, if someone could overwhelm its prediction algorithms with true randomness. "I know how to kill it," Marcus said quietly. Everyone in the command center turned to look at him. "Explain," Thane ordered. "The Nexus predicts threats based on patterns. It analyzes every attack and calculates the optimal defense. That is why it adapts so quickly. But my ability, it does not follow patterns. When I manipulate probability, I am not executing a tactic. I am collapsing quantum possibilities into specific outcomes. The Nexus cannot predict that because it operates on deterministic cause and effect." "You want to attack the Nexus personally?" Cragg laughed. "One human against the most powerful ship in the Hive fleet? Not alone, but yes, I need to get close enough to use my ability directly on it." "That is suicide," Thane said, though his voice carried consideration rather than dismissal. "Maybe, but I see a path, a very narrow one. If we create enough chaos, enough randomness in the attack pattern, I can get close in a small craft. Once I am near the Nexus, I can use my ability to find the exact sequence of actions that will overwhelm its processing core." "You are asking me to sacrifice ships and warriors as a distraction so you can attempt something that has never been done," Cragg said. "Yes." The Draken's supreme warlord stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It was a terrifying expression full of fangs. "I have lived 200 years and fought in 1,000 battles. I have never heard a plan so insane. I love it. If you succeed, human, I will personally declare you a warrior of worth. If you fail, at least you will die bravely." "I will pilot the craft," Thane announced. "If Marcus is going, he needs someone who can handle combat flying." "Commander, you are too valuable," one of his officers began. "This is my decision. Prepare a stealth assault ship. We launch in 1 hour." That hour passed too quickly. Marcus suited up in combat armor, checked his weapons, and tried not to think about the impossibility of what he was attempting. Resonance found him in the prep room. "I calculated the odds of your success," she chimed sadly. "They are 0.03%. So there is a chance. Marcus, I have watched you these past months. You changed from a broken soldier into something extraordinary. But this, you do not have to prove anything." "Yes, I do. Not to others. To myself. I froze once, and someone died because of it. If I do not try this, I will freeze again. I will always be that broken soldier who could not act." Resonance touched his shoulder with her crystalline hand. "Then return alive. The galaxy needs more warriors like you. Warriors who fight because they must, not because they want to." The stealth ship was small, designed for 2 crew members. Thane took the pilot seat and Marcus sat behind him at the weapons station. The ship was called the Whisper, and it lived up to its name. Its engines produced almost no signature. "Ready?" Thane asked. "No, but let us go anyway." The Whisper launched from Sigma Station along with 100 other ships. All of them began random attack patterns on the Hive fleet, firing in unpredictable sequences, changing vectors without logic. The Hive tried to adapt, but true randomness cannot be predicted. In that chaos, the Whisper slipped through. Thane's flying was masterful, dodging fire by centimeters, using debris as cover, always moving. They got closer to the Nexus, close enough to see its massive hull, covered in organic plates that shifted and moved. "We are in range," Thane said. "Whatever you are going to do, do it now." Marcus closed his eyes and reached out with his ability. Time stopped. The frozen universe spread before him. He saw every ship, every weapon, every movement. But more than that, he saw the Nexus's neural network. It appeared in his mind as a massive web of light, pulsing with information flow. He began to trace probability paths. If the Whisper fired at point A, the Nexus would shift defenses to compensate, leaving point B vulnerable for 0.3 seconds. If they then fired at point B, the Nexus would adapt, but the adaptation would create a cascade error in Sector C. If they exploited that error, the Nexus would attempt to recalibrate, but the recalibration would require pulling processing power from its weapon systems. Marcus saw it. A sequence of 47 precise actions, each one impossible, each one necessary. The path was so narrow that the slightest deviation would mean failure. But it existed. He opened his eyes. Time remained frozen. He moved to the weapons console and began inputting commands. Fire pattern alpha at coordinates X, wait 0.3 seconds. Fire pattern beta at coordinates Y, wait 0.2 seconds. Redirect shield frequency to 447.3 terahertz. Fire kinetic round at coordinates Z, on and on 47 different actions, each one timed to the microsecond. His hands moved faster than they ever had, both the organic one and the prosthetic. He felt his mind starting to tear from the strain, but he pushed through. The last command was the strangest. Ram the Nexus at a specific point on its hull. Not to do damage, but to create a physical vibration at a specific frequency. That vibration would propagate through the organic structure and interfere with the neural network at a quantum level. It was insane, but it was the only path to victory. Marcus finished inputting the commands and collapsed back into his seat. He released his hold on time. The Whisper executed every command perfectly. The ship moved like it was dancing, firing, dodging, redirecting, each action flowing into the next. The Nexus tried to respond, but each response created the exact vulnerability Marcus had predicted. The final sequence initiated. The Whisper accelerated directly at the Nexus hull. "Brace for impact," Thane shouted. They struck the hull at exactly the right angle, exactly the right velocity. The Whisper's shields absorbed most of the impact, but the ship was damaged. Alarms screamed, but the vibration propagated through the Nexus exactly as Marcus had foreseen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Nexus began to shudder. Its organic plates convulsed. The energy patterns across its hull became chaotic. Inside its neural network, the quantum interference was spreading, creating cascade failures faster than the system could compensate. The Hive Queen, the consciousness at the center of the Nexus, felt something it had never felt before: confusion. Its perfect predictions were failing. It could not calculate what had happened. The human's actions had no pattern, no logic, no cause and effect that could be modeled. In its confusion, it made a mistake. It pulled all Hive forces back to protect the Nexus, abandoning their attack on the fleet. And in that moment of hesitation, the combined firepower of the Galactic Defense Corps struck. Every ship fired simultaneously at the vulnerable Nexus. The great ship tried to adapt, but its systems were in chaos. It could not process the incoming threats. Weapons tore through its hull. Reactors exploded. The neural network collapsed. The Hive Queen died. Across the entire battlefield, every Hive warrior stopped moving. Every ship went dark. The telepathic network that connected them all had been destroyed. They were drones without a queen, machines without programming. The battle was over. Humanity and its allies had won. The Whisper drifted in space, too damaged to maneuver. Thane was unconscious from the impact. Marcus was barely aware, his mind shredded from the effort of manipulating so many probability threads at once. But through his failing vision, he saw the Hive fleet going dark. He had done it. Then he passed out. Marcus woke 3 weeks later in a medical facility on one of the core worlds. His body had been in a coma while doctors worked to repair the neural damage. When his eyes finally opened, the first thing he saw was Commander Thane sitting beside his bed. "Welcome back," Thane said. "Did we win?" Marcus asked, his voice weak. "Yes. The Hive has been destroyed. Their remaining ships without the Nexus simply shut down. We are studying them now, but they pose no further threat." "How many died?" "Too many. But because of you, millions lived who would have died if the Nexus survived. The Galactic Council wishes to honor you." "I am just a technician." Thane made his clicking laugh. "No, Marcus, you are the warrior I knew you could be. You have proven that humanity's gift is real and valuable. The galaxy sees Earth differently now." Over the following weeks, Marcus recovered slowly. Visitors came. Resonance brought him music recordings from her homeworld. Crag himself appeared, and to everyone's shock, the Draken Supreme Warlord bowed to Marcus. "You fought with honor and skill beyond measure." Crag rumbled. "I declare you warrior of worth. Any who mock humanity will answer to me." Even Korth came, though he looked like it pained him. "I was wrong about you," the Draken said stiffly. "You are stronger than you appear." "I am exactly as broken as I always was," Marcus replied. "I just learned to make my brokenness useful." When Marcus was finally well enough to walk, they held a ceremony in the Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from 1,000 worlds came to witness. Marcus stood before them, feeling uncomfortable in formal clothes, and listened as they spoke of his courage. The Galactic Council offered him a position. Commander of humanity's Special Operations Division. He would train other humans to awaken their probability manipulation abilities. He would lead missions against threats that conventional forces could not handle. "What do you say, Marcus Webb?" the council speaker asked. "Will you accept this position?" Marcus thought about it. He thought about his quiet life as a technician, about fixing broken things and avoiding responsibility. That life was gone. It had been gone since the moment Commander Thane chose him. But he also thought about the soldiers he had fought beside, about the billions of lives saved, about other humans like him, broken by trauma who did not know they had potential for something more. "I accept," he said, "on one condition. Any human who awakens this ability gets a choice. We do not force anyone to fight. This gift comes from survival, not from war. We honor that." "Agreed," the council speaker said. Over the next years, Marcus helped establish the Human Probability Corps. He found others like him, soldiers damaged by war, civilians traumatized by loss, people who had survived the impossible and been changed by it. Not all of them could manipulate probability. The ability was rare, but those who could learn to use it for protection, for defense, for ensuring that the narrow path to survival always existed. Marcus himself led several critical missions. Each time he pushed himself to the edge of what his mind could handle. Each time he found the impossible path through chaos. He saved worlds. He stopped wars before they started. He became the person he never thought he could be. But the nightmares never stopped. The guilt over his squad leader's death never fully faded. He was still broken, still damaged, still carrying trauma that no amount of victories could erase. And he learned that was acceptable. "You wanted to speak with me?" Marcus asked, entering Commander Thane's office 5 years after the Battle of Sigma Station. Thane looked older now, his exoskeleton showing fine cracks from age. "I am retiring. After 85 years of service, it is time. You have earned your rest. I have a question for you, Marcus. 5 years ago, when I chose you from that line of candidates, you asked me what I saw in you. Do you remember?" "Yes." "I never fully answered. I told you I saw potential, but not what kind." Thane stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. "I saw someone who had been broken and chose to keep existing anyway. Most warriors I meet have never truly failed. They have never frozen in terror. They have never felt the weight of someone dying because they were not strong enough." He turned back to Marcus. "Those warriors are brave, but they do not understand survival. They fight because they are strong. You fight because you are weak, and you do it anyway. That is why I chose you. Because against the Hive, against the threats this galaxy faces, we do not need the strongest warriors. We need the ones who know how to survive when all strength is gone." Marcus felt something break inside him, something he had been holding together for years. Tears came, and he did not stop them. "I was so afraid that day," he admitted. "When you chose me, I thought you made a mistake. I thought I would fail and embarrass Earth. I spent months waiting to be proven useless. And yet here you stand, commander of the most elite force in the galaxy, proven in battle 100 times over. But I'm still broken. I still freeze sometimes. I still have nightmares. The ability does not fix what is damaged inside me." "No," Thane agreed, "but perhaps that damage is part of what makes you strong. You know fear. You know doubt. You know what it costs to fight when everything in you wants to run. Warriors who have never felt those things cannot truly understand what they ask of others." Marcus wiped his eyes. "What will you do now that you are retired?" "I'm writing a book about leadership, about seeing potential in unexpected places. You will be prominently featured. I hope you make me sound braver than I am. I will write the truth, that the damaged soldier became the galaxy's greatest warrior, not despite his wounds, but because of them. After Marcus left, he walked through the station corridors thinking about Thane's words. He passed warriors from dozens of species, all of them nodding respectfully as he went by. 5 years ago they had mocked him, now they honored him, but he was still the same person inside, still Marcus Webb, the technician who froze in combat. The only difference was that he had learned to use his fear, his overthinking, his broken mind as tools rather than obstacles. He found resonance in the library where she spent most of her time. The Salith was organizing ancient texts. "How was your meeting with Commander Thane?" she chimed. "Emotional. He is retiring. The end of an era, but perhaps the beginning of another. You will make a fine leader, Marcus." "I never wanted to be a leader. I just wanted to fix things." Resonance's crystalline form shimmered with amusement. "And what do you think you have been doing? You fix the paths of probability. You fix impossible situations. You fix what is broken in others by showing them that broken things can still be valuable. You make it sound more noble than it is. Because you do not see yourself clearly, you still see the soldier who froze, but everyone else sees the warrior who stands when others fall." Marcus sat down, suddenly tired. "Do you know what the worst part is? Every time I use my ability, every time I manipulate probability, I see all the futures where I fail, where people die because I was not good enough. I have to choose one path while watching 1,000 others collapse into death and disaster. It never gets easier." "Good," Resonance said firmly. "The day it becomes easy is the day you stop being the person we need. Your empathy, your fear, your awareness of cost, these are not weaknesses. They are what make you human." Late that night, Marcus stood in his quarters looking at Earth through the window. It was just a small blue dot from this distance, but it was home. Billions of people lived there, most of them never knowing how close they had come to extinction. He thought about the human candidates who had been rejected 5 years ago. The soldiers with their medals, the scientists with their genius, the ambassadors with their languages. All of them more qualified than him on paper. But qualification was not the same as suitability. Thane had understood that. He had seen that the galaxy did not need another traditional warrior. It needed someone who understood survival on a primal level. Marcus's communicator beeped. A message from the Galactic Council. Another crisis. A colony under attack by unknown forces. They needed someone who could find the impossible solution. They needed him. Marcus put on his combat armor, checked his weapons, and prepared to deploy. His hands still shook slightly, his heart still pounded with fear. The nightmares would still come after the mission ended. But he would go anyway. Because that was what survivors did. They kept moving forward even when they were afraid. They found the narrow path through chaos even when they could not see it clearly. They protected others even when they could not protect themselves. Commander Thane had chosen a damaged soldier. That soldier had revealed his power, and the galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not the absence of fear, but the courage to act despite it. Marcus boarded the transport ship. Other members of the Probability Corps were already there, humans like him, all of them carrying scars, both visible and invisible. They nodded to each other, understanding without words what it cost to do what they did. The ship launched toward the crisis, toward the unknown, toward another impossible situation that someone had to solve. And Marcus Webb, the broken technician who became a warrior, felt something he had not felt in years. He felt like he was exactly where he belonged.